All right, guys. So as I'm sure you've seen in the most recent chapter, we got this mural. This like foreshadows all the things in One Piece. I'm going to show you all the things that you missed and all the hidden Easter eggs, all the secret story behind it, all that good stuff. Okay, so first of all, we have the setting here. So it seems like everything that's happening is happening in this city. So this is clearly a modern city. We don't really have anything like we haven't seen anything like this in the One Piece world. But it's interesting that there's pollution and there's buildings, right? So the question is, what has pollution in buildings? Well, obviously New Jersey, right? Clearly, this mural is some kind of representation of New Jersey. I mean, this is it even has the snake, right? The famous, snakes of New Jersey. So what's happening here? So first of all, the snake, right, the symbol of New Jersey, is doing battle with this bird. So what does this bird represent, right? Well, I believe this is maybe a little controversial, but I believe this bird represents America, right? So why America, right? So it's obviously it's the bald eagle. There's no hair there, so it's clear representation of America. I think the reason it doesn't look exactly is because Oda didn't want to, give it away. So the New Jersey is doing battle with America. Maybe it's a commentary on, the federal government versus the states governments. But what I think it is, I think to really understand, we have to look at the rest of the mural, right? So what's happening here, right? Why are these people, moving these things and then coming and going, right? So a lot of people say it has to do with dreams, right? Like, they're harvesting the dreams. Like this is the American dream, right? So I personally, I of course Oda's known to commentate on American democracy throughout One Piece. It's one of its major themes, right? But I believe that this is not actually dreams like the American dream. I think this is actually the coronavirus, right? Because look at this, right? They're going up with the virus, they're going into New Jersey, and then they're dying, right? So this is a commentary on the lockdowns, right? Because look at this city. There's no one. There's no one out and about. There's these guys, but they're like sad and stuff, right? So and the lights are clearly on. There are people in these homes, right? So this is clearly a representation of people who didn't stay inside, like these people. They died. There's even an angel here, like leading them. Because look at them. The people with the virus, they're going into the buildings. They're trying to get out, but the people that are outside, they're dying, right? So I think this is probably a representation of the government. Again, you see the bird wings, similar to the bald eagle, right? So it's the federal government's lockdown procedures, right? You could even see here like the livestock, right? I think the livestock represents like the farmers, right? Because these guys are farmers. They're clearly tending to the animals, so that represents the emergency workers, right? So it's interesting here what's happening, right? So as we saw, so this is modern times, but here is a representation of the state's autonomy, which is more of a ancient concept. So what I believe is happening here is Otis trying to bridge the gap between the modern America and the ancient colonial America, right? There's a king here, right? So what does this king represent? Well, I would argue it's King George, right? He's leaving this, which is New Jersey, and also this is America, right? He's leaving, right? And he's going someplace else. So what is this tree here, right? And what's happening over here? This is something we have to understand here, right? So the tree, I think, represents America as a whole, right? In as you'll remember, right? Like in Hamilton, uh, George Washington, he talks about like sitting under his fig tree and chilling, right? So this is a representation of America and peace. King George, he's leaving New Jersey, but he's going towards it. Clearly, there's battle happening in America. So King George, he decides to be at peace and to get out of there, right? So what is the moon here, right? And what are all these? So this is obviously this is the coronavirus in the air, right? This probably represents like the wars happening and all that. Striking down King George as he's leaving, right? Like you know, like the revolutionaries forcing him to leave, right? So that's probably what that represents. The moon's interesting because, right? Because what was England known as? It was known as the empire where the sun never sets, right? But so why the moon here? Well, if you think about it, if there's an empire where the sun never sets, there has to it's also the empire where the moon never sets, right? And America is also known as that. So perhaps America is like the moon where Britain is the sun, because America became the dominant power in the world, right? So we could look at what's happening here, right? So so what does this represent and what do these people represent, right? So this person has the sun. So perhaps this is a representation of the governmental power at the time, right? So if we look at here, right, these are both shadowy figures, the America and the New Jersey, right? And as you'll remember, New Jersey was a major staging point in the Revolutionary War, so this is why, this is why this all makes sense. So it's the Revolutionary War, and it's bridging the gap between the Revolutionary War and modern times, right? How do they relate? Okay, so what do we see here? First of all, there's still coronavirus in the air, right? So coronavirus, right? So it's obviously, it's in the air. It's showing people, it's a representation of suffering. It's not. I don't believe it's meant to be taken literally in the mural, because obviously, they're hundreds of years apart. But there's always virus, right? Especially then, because war really perpetrated viruses and diseases, right? So what's happening here? Well, so I think any black figures, right? So Emu's black, the Emu figure, which obviously represents King George. The America's black, the New Jersey's black, right? And then this figure's black. So this dark black is clearly a representation of 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 the government, of the governmental power, right? And then these represent like the quote unquote people, not the governmental power, the oppositional forces, right? That's why, you have normal people here, right? And then you have, other people here. So in the evil as represented by the sun, right? The empire where the sun never sets, right? That's what these guys are fighting against. So I believe Oda's making a commentary here on different peoples and different governments fighting each other and what happens when they do, right? As represented by the moon that represents this America. America tries to take the peace, but really it's just fighting for it. It doesn't really have it. And it's the moon, but it's still infected with these metaphorical evils of the constant need to have a governing force, right? So that's okay, that's all obvious, right? So what's happening here? I think this is probably the most powerful part of the mural, right? So Oda's really making a point of having this big evil that all these different people are fighting against, right? So this shows like the unity of the different people. Obviously, these are all the different peoples of the One Piece world, but it's really representation of different parts of, humankind, right? Right? Like if you'll notice, all of these guys are the same, right? So this is obviously a commentary on like the small a minority of people controlling everything versus the majority taking it back. But what's interesting here is we have this figure who's probably the leader. So what is this guy doing? Look at the color here. It's dark. It's really dark black. If you notice, all the other people here, they're slightly lighter for the most. I mean, these people, but that's clothing, right? So all of these guys are slightly lighter. So what's Oda saying here, right? This figure is clearly gonna stab the sun, destroying the empire, right? This guy is dark too. So this figure will just it'll just grow into another monster, right? It's not fixing the problem, it's just stabbing the problem, right? And it's leading its army. Literally, they're walking away from this peace, right? And even if they're all united, eventually the different factions, like with New Jersey and America, will just start fighting and breathing fire at each other. And it's so clearly Oda is making a commentary on the state of revolutions and the true peace that is needed in the world. Thank you.